I just need enough for a ride. Please. My wallet, my phone, everything's gone.
Marcus didn't answer. "Sir?" the cashier called from behind the counter. "You paying or not?" A child's voice, small, careful, rose from the snack aisle. "Daddy, is she okay?" The woman's breath hitched. I'm not trying to scam you. I swear, I just can't stay out there." Marcus finally spoke, low and steady, like he was trying not to let his own fear make noise. "How much do you need?" The woman blinked, shocked that someone had asked without judgment. 20, just 20. Marcus' jaw tightened, because 20 wasn't a number to him tonight. It was milk. It was bread. It was the one warm thing his daughter could eat before sleeping. He reached into his wallet anyway. One bill, a single $20 bill, creased like it had been folded and unfolded 100 times, like it had survived too many hard weeks. The woman shook her head the moment she saw it. No, I can't take your last." Marcus stepped forward and placed the bill on the counter. "Take it," he said. Her eyes filled instantly. I don't even know you." Marcus didn't look at her. He looked past her, toward the glass door where the rain slammed the street like fists. "Yeah," he murmured. "That's why." Ava walked closer, clutching a tiny stuffed rabbit with one missing button eye. She stared at the woman the way kids do, like truth is simple and adults are the complicated ones. The woman swallowed hard. "My name is Vivian. I promise I'll repay you." Marcus lifted a hand gently, stopping the promise before it could grow. "Just get home safe." Vivian's fingers closed around the bill like it was a lifeline. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you. I'll never forget this." Marcus nodded once, more to himself than to her. Then he turned away. Ava tugged his sleeve. "Daddy, what about the cupcake?" Marcus's smile came out thin, brave, and cracked at the edges. "We'll figure it out, baby." And as the bell above the door jingled and Vivian disappeared into the storm, Marcus Reed stood under fluorescent lights that made everyone look tired. A black single father with nothing left in his wallet but a few coins, and everything left to lose. He didn't know the woman he'd just helped owned a skyscraper with her name on it. He didn't know that by morning she would walk into his life again, this time in heels, with an empire behind her. And he didn't know that the last $20 he gave away was about to come back to him as a second chance. But to understand why a man who was already drowning still chose to save someone else. We have to go back to the morning his world first collapsed. Chicago mornings didn't wake up gently. They cracked open. Sirens in the distance, buses coughing at corners, strangers moving like everyone was late for something important. In a small apartment on the South Side, Marcus Reed stood at a kitchen counter that had seen better years, packing a lunchbox with the kind of care people usually reserve for fragile things. 2 slices of bread, peanut butter spread thin, apple wedges cut into neat triangles, not because the shapes mattered, but because making it neat was the only way Marcus could pretend he still had control. Across the table, Ava Reed swung her legs, humming a tune she'd invented on the spot, something about a brave rabbit and a glittery moon. "Daddy," she said, "are you coming to my recital on Friday?" Marcus smiled. The smile tried. It didn't fully land. "I'll be there," he said. Ava tilted her head. "You promise? Promise?" He leaned in, tapped her nose with his finger. "Promise, promise." Ava grinned and went back to coloring. Marcus watched her for one extra second, like a man memorizing a moment he might need later. Because when you're a single parent, you learn something early. The world doesn't announce when it's about to pull the floor out from under you. At Holloway Analytics, the office smelled like espresso and polished confidence. Marcus had built a reputation here. Quiet, reliable, the guy who fixed campaign numbers when everyone else was guessing. He didn't gossip. He didn't take credit. He just worked because work meant rent, and rent meant Ava didn't have to move again. He sat down, logged in, and saw the email at the top of his inbox. Immediate termination, HR notice. For a second, his brain refused to read it. Then it read it anyway. Allegations, breach of trust, unauthorized access, effective immediately. Marcus's fingers went cold on the mouse. He stood so fast his chair snapped back. He walked toward HR with the email still open on his phone. like proof that reality had gone insane. Halfway down the hall, he saw Brad Holloway, smooth hair, clean shirt, the kind of guy who always sounded like he was smiling even when he wasn't. Marcus stopped him. "Brad." Brad's steps slowed like he'd been expecting this. Marcus held up his phone. "You were on that client file with me." Brad blinked, wide-eyed innocence. "Yeah, I heard something happened." "Something?" Marcus's voice sharpened. "They're saying I stole data." Brad lowered his voice, glancing around like a man afraid of being seen with a sinking ship. "Marcus, don't make a scene." Marcus stared. "Tell them the truth." Brad's smile flickered, just for a heartbeat, then it settled back into place. "I don't know what you want me to say," Brad murmured. "I'm staying out of it." And he walked away. That was the moment Marcus understood. This wasn't a mistake. This was a setup. HR didn't debate. They didn't investigate in front of him. They slid a folder across the desk like Marcus was already guilty, and the paperwork was just the final stamp. "Sign here," the HR manager said. Marcus didn't touch the pen. "You didn't even ask me what happened. Our decision is final." Marcus leaned forward. "I didn't do it." The HR manager's eyes were calm, professional, empty. "We wish you the best in your future endeavors." Marcus laughed once, but it came out dry. Future endeavors. Like he had the luxury of a future. He left the building with a cardboard box of his desk items, a mug Ava had painted in kindergarten, a couple of notebooks, a pen that didn't work anymore. On the sidewalk, Chicago kept moving. Nobody paused for a man whose life had just cracked in half. Marcus checked his bank balance, $43.12. By the time he paid bus fare, picked up Ava, and bought the absolute basics, it became $20 one bill, the last one. That evening, Ava sat on the living room floor, coloring a rabbit wearing a crown. Marcus sat on the couch with his elbows on his knees, staring at his hands like they might explain what to do next. Ava glanced up. "Daddy," she said carefully, "did something bad happen at work?" Marcus forced his voice to stay steady. "No, baby, just changes." Ava crawled over and climbed into his lap like she'd done 1,000 times. She pressed her head to his chest. "You always figure things out," she whispered. Marcus closed his eyes, because the truth was, he didn't know if he could this time, not with bills coming, not with a fridge that was already too quiet, not with a little girl trusting him like gravity. And then Ava asked almost casually, "Can we still get a cupcake tonight?" Marcus swallowed. "Yeah," he lied softly. "We'll see." The sky turned heavy and dark early, like it couldn't hold itself up. Marcus held Ava's hand as they walked to Lakeview Mart, the corner store that never slept and never looked clean no matter how often they mopped. Inside, the fluorescent lights made everyone look a little tired. Marcus walked the aisles doing silent math. Milk? Too expensive. Bread? Okay, but the cheaper brand. Eggs? No. He could feel Ava's eyes drifting to the cupcake display, bright frosting behind glass like happiness on a shelf. "Daddy," she said, trying to sound grown up, "I can share." Marcus smiled without looking at her. "You shouldn't have to." The bell above the door jingled. Wind shoved rain inside. A woman stumbled in like she'd been running from something. Tall, drenched, coat that looked expensive even soaked through. Her hair was stuck to her cheek, but her eyes were sharp, wide with panic. She approached the counter. "I need to get to River North," she said, voice shaking. "My wallet's gone. My phone's gone. I don't have cash." The cashier didn't even pretend to care. "Not my problem." The woman took a step back. Her breathing sped up. She checked her pockets again, like desperation could change physics. Marcus tried to mind his business. He tried. But Ava tugged his sleeve. "Daddy." She's scared. Marcus looked at the woman's hands. They were shaking, not just from cold, from fear. And something in Marcus recognized it instantly, like seeing his own reflection in a stranger. He pushed the cart forward anyway, trying to keep his world small. The cashier scanned the items. "That'll be $19.87. Marcus reached for his wallet, and there it was. The 20. The last. His thumb paused on the edge of it. Then the woman's voice cracked again behind him. "Please, I'm not trying to scam anyone. I can't stay out there." Marcus inhaled slowly. A memory flashed, his mother years ago, stretching a few dollars into a week and still feeding a neighbor, because we don't let people fall when we can catch them. Marcus turned. He met the woman's eyes. "How much do you need?" he asked. She blinked, stunned by the lack of judgment. 20, she whispered. "Just 20. Marcus's jaw tightened, because 20 was not just anything. 20 was Ava's breakfast. 20 was his dignity in paper form. 20 was one more day before the world got meaner. The woman shook her head the second she saw it in his hand. No, I can't take your last." Marcus stepped forward and placed it on the counter. "Take it," he said. Her eyes filled instantly. "I don't even know you." Marcus glanced toward Ava, then back to the storm beyond the glass door. "Yeah," he murmured. "That's why." Ava walked closer, clutching her little rabbit. She offered the woman a crumpled tissue like it was treasure. The woman let out a breath that sounded like she'd been holding it for hours. "My name is Vivian," she whispered. "Vivian." Marcus nodded once. "Marcus." Vivian clutched the bill. "I swear I'll repay you. I have a company. Marcus lifted a hand gently, stopping the promise before it could grow. "Just get home safe." Vivian looked at Ava, voice softening. "Thank you," she told the child. "Both of you." Then she turned and vanished into the rain. Marcus faced the cashier again. The cashier stared like Marcus had lost his mind. "You still paying?" the cashier asked. Marcus looked down at his cart. Milk, bread. He quietly returned them to the shelf. His hand hovered near the cupcakes. Ava didn't ask again. She just watched, quiet, brave. Marcus chose the smallest, cheapest cupcake wrapped in plastic. The cashier scanned it. Marcus poured coins onto the counter until the pile looked like a confession. Outside, rain hit them hard. No umbrella, no bus fare. Just wet sidewalks and consequences. Ava ate the cupcake in tiny bites as they walked home. Halfway, she held it out. "Your turn, Daddy." Marcus shook his head. "I'm okay," Ava insisted. "You always give me the good parts." He took the smallest bite, just enough to keep her smile alive. At home, Marcus tucked Ava into bed. She looked up sleepily. "Daddy?" "Yeah, baby?" "Did we do the right thing?" Marcus stared at the ceiling for a long second, listening to the rain claw at the window. Then he looked back at his daughter. "Yes," he said. "We did." After Ava fell asleep, Marcus sat in the dark with an empty wallet, and for the first time in a long time, he let fear speak out loud. "What am I going to do?" The rain didn't answer. Morning came anyway. It didn't care who had slept. It didn't care who was scared. Marcus got up before sunrise, washed his face, and stared at his reflection like he was trying to convince himself he still belonged in the world. Ava ate toast with thin peanut butter and smiled like everything was normal. That was the cruel beauty of children. They trust your strength, even when you don't feel it. After dropping Ava at school, Marcus checked his email again. A new message sat there like a door cracked open. Interview confirmation, Sterling & Co. Marketing, 10:00 a.m. Marcus blinked. He didn't remember applying to that many places, but he didn't question mercy. He put on his old suit, slightly tight in the shoulders, slightly worn at the cuffs, and walked to the train station with coins scraped from couch cushions and jacket pockets. Downtown felt like a different planet. Glass buildings, people who didn't look like they'd ever counted pennies for bus fare. At Sterling & Company, the lobby was marble and silence. Marcus gave his name at the desk. The receptionist nodded. "Take a seat." Marcus sat with his hands clasped, forcing them to stay still. Then the elevator doors opened. A small group stepped out, assistants, security. And at the center of them, moving like the building belonged to her, Vivian. Only now she wasn't a soaked stranger. She wore a tailored navy suit, hair pulled back perfectly, a watch that caught the light like it was part of the skyline. Her face was composed, but when her eyes landed on Marcus, something softened. She stopped. Her assistants hesitated behind her, confused. Vivian walked directly to him. Marcus stood too fast. "Viv." She held up a hand, quieting the entire lobby with one gesture. "Marcus Reed," she said, voice calm but warm. The receptionist's eyes widened. Marcus swallowed. "Yes." Vivian turned to the receptionist. "Cancel my next 20 minutes. "Yes, Ms. Sterling." "Ms. Sterling." Marcus's stomach dropped. Vivian gestured toward a side office. Come with me." Inside, the door closed and the city behind the glass looked far away. Vivian faced Marcus. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Vivian exhaled, like letting go of a night she'd been carrying. "You didn't have to do that," she said softly. Marcus's voice came out honest. "I did." Vivian's eyes searched his face. "Do you know who I am?" Marcus hesitated. "I'm guessing you're the reason this place has your name on the door." Vivian's lips tugged into the faintest smile. "I'm Vivian Sterling," she said, "founder and CEO of Sterling & Co. Marcus let the words settle. Then he nodded once, like he'd just received the world's strangest punchline. Vivian continued, quieter now. "Last night, I was leaving a charity event. I stopped to take a call outside. 2 men came up behind me. They took my bag, my phone, everything. I couldn't reach anyone. I couldn't even prove who I was." Marcus's jaw tightened. "And you," Vivian said, "were the only person who helped." Marcus looked away. "My daughter, she noticed you." Vivian's voice cracked a little. "I've met thousands of people in boardrooms," she said. "I've heard speeches about integrity, but last night I saw it, in a convenience store, from a man who didn't have room to spare." Marcus swallowed. "I didn't do it for—" "I know," Vivian cut in gently. "That's why it matters." Vivian stepped closer. "You're here for an interview," she said. "Do you still want the job?" Marcus's mind spun. He thought of Ava's lunchbox, of the empty fridge, of the last cupcake split in half on a wet sidewalk. "Yes," he said, voice firm. "I do." Vivian nodded. "Then you have it." Marcus blinked. "Just like that?" Vivian's eyes held his. "Just like last night," she said. "Just like that." Sterling & Co. moved fast, the kind of fast that didn't ask if you were ready, only whether you could keep up. Marcus was placed in strategy, campaigns, brand turnarounds, crisis management. Vivian didn't treat him like a charity case. She treated him like an asset. That was the first gift she gave him. The second came quietly. Ava's school pickup no longer felt like a countdown to disaster. Because now, Marcus could breathe again. Not fully, but enough. On Marcus's 3rd day, Vivian's assistant brought him to the executive floor. "Sterling wants you in the noon meeting," the assistant said. When Marcus entered the glass-walled conference room, he felt the temperature change, like air got colder around power. Vivian sat at the head of the table, calm and sharp. Beside her was a man with a controlled smile and eyes that didn't blink enough. "This is Derek Klein," Vivian said. "My chief operations officer." Derek extended his hand. "Marcus Reed," he said smoothly. "The man from the miracle story." Marcus shook his hand. Derek's grip was too firm, like a warning wrapped his welcome. "Glad to have you," Derek said. "Vivian speaks highly of you." Marcus nodded politely. "Glad to be here." As the meeting progressed, Marcus listened more than he spoke. He watched how Derek spoke over people with charm, how he answered questions Vivian hadn't asked, how he redirected numbers like a magician, moving attention away from the trick. And then Marcus saw something that didn't match. A budget line, a campaign expense. The numbers were too clean, too perfect. Marcus asked lightly, "Can I see the raw spend breakdown on that?" Derek smiled. "Finance already sanitized it for clarity." Marcus kept his voice respectful. "I'd still like the raw." Vivian's eyes flicked to Marcus, interested. Derek's smile didn't move. "Of course," Derek said. "We'll get it to you." But his tone said something else. "Why are you looking?" That night, Marcus sat at his kitchen table while Ava colored beside him. He opened spreadsheets, logs, vendor invoices. The more he looked, the more the numbers whispered. Small charges repeated, vendors that didn't exist outside a P.O. box, campaign equipment rentals that made no sense. Marcus leaned back, rubbing his eyes. Ava looked up. "Daddy," she asked, "are you doing homework?" Marcus smiled faintly. "Something like that." Ava nodded solemnly. "You're smart. You'll win." Marcus froze. "Win?" Ava shrugged like it was obvious. "When people are mean, you win by staying good." Marcus stared at his daughter, heart squeezing. Kids didn't understand corporate crime, but they understood character. The next day, Marcus asked the IT department for access to archive security footage. Standard procedure for crisis reports, he said. He didn't lie completely, because something felt like a crisis. In the footage from the night Vivian was robbed, Marcus noticed a black sedan idling across the street from the event venue. It arrived early, waited too long, left right after the robbery. He zoomed in. The plate was blurry, but the sticker on the windshield wasn't. A parking permit, Sterling and Company's private garage. Marcus's stomach tightened. He didn't accuse, not yet. He gathered invoices, timestamps, access logs, and then he made his move, quietly. He asked a junior accountant for one thing. Show me who approves vendor payments when Derek is out of office. The accountant hesitated, then slid a report across. The approvals bounced through a proxy account. Not illegal on paper, but suspicious in practice. Marcus felt the pieces click. This wasn't just money. This was a plan. A plan that needed a distraction. A plan that could include a staged robbery. A plan that could include a CEO, too, shaken to notice missing funds. Marcus requested a private meeting with Vivian. Her assistant looked worried. She's packed today. Marcus didn't flinch. Tell her it's urgent. Vivian's office overlooked the city like she owned the horizon. When Marcus entered, Vivian was on a call, voice sharp. She ended it and turned to him. You don't look like this is about marketing, she said. Marcus didn't sit right away. No, he said quietly. It's not. Vivian's expression shifted. Okay, talk to me. Marcus placed a folder on her desk. He didn't slide it dramatically. He set it down gently, like he was afraid the truth might shatter if handled wrong. I think the night you were robbed, Marcus said, wasn't random. Vivian's eyes narrowed. What are you saying? Marcus opened the folder and pointed. Vendor payments, he said. Repeated charges to shell companies. Approval paths routed through proxy accounts. Vivian's jaw tightened. That's Derek's territory. Marcus nodded. Yes. Vivian stared at the papers, her voice lowered. Marcus, this is a serious accusation. I know, Marcus said. That's why I didn't bring it until I had more. He pulled out still frames from the security footage. Here, Marcus said. This sedan arrived early and left right after. It has our garage permit sticker. Vivian's face went still, the kind of stillness that happens right before the ground gives way. Marcus continued, voice steady. Derek may have staged the robbery, he said, to create panic, distraction, time, and he may be using company funds as his exit strategy. Vivian stood abruptly, anger flashing. You think my COO, my closest... Her voice broke just slightly. Marcus didn't push. He waited. Vivian paced once, hands clenched. Then she looked at Marcus. What do you want me to do? She demanded. Walk into a meeting and accuse him based on spreadsheets? Marcus met her eyes. I want you to protect your company, he said, and yourself. Vivian's gaze trembled with something like betrayal. Then her expression hardened. Get Derek, she said. Now. In the glass conference room, Derek arrived with the same polished smile. Vivian, he said warmly, what's this about? Vivian didn't smile back. Sit, she said. Derek's eyes flicked to Marcus, and something cold moved behind them. Derek sat. Vivian placed the folder in front of him. Explain this, she said. Derek glanced at the documents, barely reading. Then he chuckled. Is this a joke? He said. Because I'm not sure why the new hire is... Don't, Vivian snapped. Derek leaned back, spreading his hands. Okay, he said calmly. Let's be rational. These are normal vendor structures. Proxy approvals are standard. Marcus spoke, steady and controlled. Then show us the vendor's business registrations, Marcus said. Because I checked. 2 of them don't exist. Derek's smile tightened. Vivian's voice dropped to a dangerous quiet. Derek. Derek exhaled as if disappointed. Then he turned his attention fully to Marcus, eyes sharpening like knives hidden behind manners. You're ambitious, Derek said. I respect that, but you don't belong in this room. Marcus didn't flinch. Derek's voice went lower. You were fired from Holloway Analytics, right? He said, feigning sympathy. For misconduct? Vivian froze. Marcus felt the old wound open. Derek kept going because cruel people love pressing bruises. Maybe you have a pattern, Derek said. Maybe you're here because Vivian likes a sob story. But this is reckless. Vivian's gaze snapped to Marcus. Marcus' hands tightened, but his voice stayed calm. I was fired because someone framed me, Marcus said. Derek lifted his brows. And now you're framing me? Marcus looked Derek dead in the eye. No, Marcus said. I'm recognizing the same move. Silence. Vivian's breath caught. Marcus turned to Vivian, voice softer, not begging, just truthful. I didn't come here to replace anyone, he said. I came here to work, to take care of my daughter, but I won't stay quiet if you're being robbed from the inside. Vivian stared at Derek again. Give me your phone, she said. Derek's smile didn't move. Excuse me? Now, Vivian repeated. Derek stood slowly. For the first time, his confidence slipped. Vivian, don't do this, he said. Think about your reputation. Vivian's eyes burned. I am, she said. That's why I'm doing it. Vivian signaled security. 2 guards stepped in. Derek's face tightened, then snapped. This is insane, he barked. You're choosing a stranger over me? Vivian's voice was ice. I'm choosing the truth. Derek laughed, sharp and ugly. You think he's truth? Derek spat at Marcus. He's desperation in a suit. Marcus held Derek's gaze, and then Marcus said the line that ended Derek's performance. Desperation doesn't make people steal, Marcus said quietly. It makes people show who they really are. Derek lunged for the folder. Security stopped him. Vivian didn't blink. By the end of the hour, legal was involved. Accounts were frozen, authorities notified. And Derek Klein, Sterling & Co., his golden boy, was walked out of the building like a shadow that had finally been exposed to light. That night, Vivian sat alone in her office long after everyone left. Marcus knocked gently and stepped in. Vivian didn't look up right away. When she did, her eyes were tired. He was with me for 5 years, she whispered. 5. Marcus stood quietly, giving her space to grieve the illusion. I'm sorry, he said. Vivian laughed once, bitter. I built an empire, she said, and I couldn't see the rot next to me. Marcus shook his head. It's hard to see betrayal when you're busy building, he said. That's why people like Derek exist. They wait for builders to get tired. Vivian stared at him. Then her voice softened. Why did you do it? She asked. Why risk your job? Marcus didn't hesitate. Because my daughter is watching, he said. Vivian's face flickered. That answer hit deeper than any spreadsheet. Weeks passed. The city changed slowly, rain thinning into cold sunlight, sidewalks drying in patches. Marcus' life changed faster. He wasn't rich, not suddenly, not magically, but he was stable. He could buy groceries without counting pennies like prayers. He could pay rent on time. He could show up for Ava without the fear sitting on his shoulders like a second body. And then came Friday, Ava's recital. Marcus arrived early, wearing his best shirt. He sat in the front row like it was a throne. The school auditorium smelled like dust and crayons. Kids lined up in mismatched outfits, waving at parents. Ava spotted Marcus and beamed. Then she spotted someone else. A woman entered quietly and took a seat beside Marcus. Vivian Sterling, without the CEO armor. No sharp suit, no entourage. Just a simple coat, hair down, expression softer. Marcus looked surprised. Vivian leaned in slightly. Ava invited me. Marcus blinked. She did? Vivian nodded. She said, you were sad in the rain, so you should see me sing. Marcus felt his throat tighten. On stage, Ava sang with a voice that wasn't perfect, but was brave. When she finished, she waved directly at Marcus and Vivian like they were both part of her world. Afterward, in the hallway, Ava ran up and grabbed Vivian's hand like it was the most natural thing in the universe. You came, Ava said. Vivian crouched to her level. I wouldn't miss it, Ava smiled mischievously. Daddy promised too. Marcus laughed softly. I did. Ava looked between them with child logic. So you're both promise people, she said. Vivian's eyes met Marcus. Something warm passed between them. Quiet, cautious, real. Not fireworks, more like a light turning on in a room that had been dark for too long. As months moved, Marcus and Vivian didn't rush. They learned each other slowly. Vivian learned that Marcus's silence wasn't distance. It was discipline. Marcus learned that Vivian's sharpness wasn't coldness. It was survival. Sometimes, Vivian would pick Ava up from school when Marcus had late meetings. Sometimes, Marcus would catch Vivian staring out her office window like someone who had everything and still felt alone. And sometimes, late evenings after work, they sat at Marcus's kitchen table, Ava asleep in her room, talking in low voices about what it cost to keep going. One night, Vivian noticed something in Marcus's drawer. A small envelope. Inside it, flattened carefully like it mattered, was a wrinkled $20 bill. Vivian stared. "You kept it?" she whispered. Marcus nodded. "Not the same bill," he admitted. "But the idea." Vivian's voice was barely there. "That night," she said, "I thought I was losing my life." Marcus looked at her gently. "No," he said. "You were just meeting it without protection." Vivian swallowed. Then she asked the question that changed everything, softly, like she was afraid to break it. "What did it cost you?" Vivian asked. Marcus's eyes flicked toward Ava's bedroom door. "Dinner," he said simply, "and sleep." Vivian's eyes filled, but she didn't let the tears fall. Instead, she reached across the table and placed her hand over his. "I'm not asking you to be strong alone anymore," she said. Marcus didn't answer right away, because strength had been his entire identity for years. But then Ava's voice drifted from the hallway, half asleep. "Daddy?" Marcus stood instantly, like instinct. Ava shuffled into the kitchen, rubbing her eyes. Vivian knelt and helped her with her sweater. Ava looked at Vivian, then at Marcus, and in the blunt way only kids can be, she asked the question both adults had been scared to say out loud. "Are you going to stay?" Silence. Marcus's chest tightened. Vivian's breath caught. Marcus crouched to Ava's level. He didn't promise what he couldn't guarantee, but he promised what he could. "We're not going anywhere," he said. "Not away from you." Ava's eyes softened. She yawned and leaned against Marcus's shoulder. "Okay," she murmured. "Good." And just like that, Ava gave them permission to become something more than survival. The wedding wasn't a headline. It wasn't a spectacle. It was warm, small, real. A backyard under string lights, friends who mattered. A few coworkers who had learned what integrity looked like up close. Chicago's evening air was cool, but gentle. Marcus stood in a dark suit that finally fit right. Vivian stood beside him in a simple dress that made her look less like a CEO and more like a woman who had chosen to be seen. Ava wore a little flower crown and took her role extremely seriously. When it came time for vows, Marcus' voice trembled only once. He looked at Vivian and said, "I didn't save you that night," he said quietly. "I just didn't let you fall alone." Vivian's eyes shone. "And you didn't give me money," she replied, voice soft but steady. "You gave me proof that goodness still exists." Ava sniffled dramatically from her seat. "I'm crying," she announced to everyone, proud. People laughed through tears. Vivian and Marcus exchanged rings. Not like a fairy tale, like a decision. A choice to build something that didn't rely on luck. When they kissed, quick, respectful, tender, Ava clapped the loudest. Then she ran up and hugged both of them at once like a bridge between two broken worlds that had finally found each other. Later, under the string lights, Marcus watched Ava dance with a cupcake in her hand, this time unwrapped, frosted, bright. She took a bite and ran back to Marcus, cheeks full. "Daddy," she said, "this one is the big one." Marcus laughed, eyes burning. Vivian stepped beside him and slipped her hand into his. Marcus looked down at their joined hands, and for the first time in a long time, his shoulders lowered. Not because life was perfect, but because he wasn't carrying it alone anymore. The rain came later that night, soft, harmless, tapping the windows like applause instead of punishment. And if you listened closely, you could almost hear the city whisper back, "Sometimes the last $20 you give away comes back as a life you never thought you'd deserve." If this story touched a memory in you, if you've ever had a moment where you gave your last 20 to someone else, leave a comment for Marcus. Because somewhere out there, someone is still walking home in the rain, hoping kindness is real.